Welcome to another episode of Two Old Goats. I am Pat. I'm here with my co-host Brian J. Bebe on Twitter, and we are joined by our very special guest, Heel Money Jovi, Greg Jovi, hated man in the Midwest indie circuit, but we love him here. So, how you doing, Greg?
Not too bad, you guys. Thanks for having me on. I always like the sound of my own voice. I like to tell people when I'm on podcasts. So any chance I get to do that, great. So I appreciate you guys having me here to chat and talk about whatever is on your guys' mind and then some. So thanks
Yeah.
again.
Well, we appreciate having you on the podcast. And I told Patrick when we were doing our meeting before we even started the podcast, hey, I'd like to get Greg Jovi on. And he was just as excited as I was. So we appreciate you being here. So really quick, we actually are big foodies. So our first question for you is, when you go on the road to Iowa or Kansas City or wherever it is you're traveling, Texas, is there a certain area or place you like to go because of the food? Anything that gets you excited when you're like, hey, I'm booked here, we can eat here?
I tell you, Des Moines. So I've been going up there for 3XW, but long before then. For those that know or don't know, I ran a company. The banners behind me here, you see, they hang in my basement for PWCS. The company I ran with my brother, basically, everything but blood brother, Jason. He lives up in Des Moines. I've been going there since I was probably 20 years old. And it's a sneaky good restaurant town, man. Like everybody knows kind of the hits. Like there's Zombie Burger, usually gets a lot of people there. It's like a horror themed burger joint, but they have a lot of really cool places. My favorite is a place called Fong's Pizza, Fong, and it's a pizza Asian fusion restaurant. So they have like crab ragoon pizza, and then they've got egg rolls with pizza gimmick inside. So yeah, I always get hyped about going to Des Moines. Not just obviously I get to see my buddy, and I love 3XW, but being able to go to check out some of those places up there. There's always really like something fun and new popping up. It's kind of like a weird little hipster town. I think a lot of people think, because it's in Iowa, which is just awful. You ever driven through Iowa? Most of it is just terrible. But Des Moines, Iowa is actually a neat, like cool town that I've got to explore over the years because of going to visit my friends there. So I would say Des Moines for sure. Kansas City, I loved the food up there with y'all, but yeah, I mean there was that. It's hard to beat Des Moines.
Oh yeah, and now that you said the horror themed pizza restaurant, I know my wife will be begging me to go or telling me we're going, not begging.
Really man, quick, it's just don't trap. That ain't traveling food is the thing, because it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks. Like that it ain't. You gotta stay. You get a hotel if you're on the Zombie Burger.
Yeah, we probably will. Really quick, I wanted to shout out to a guy named Hunter Dillon who's in the chat. Hunter came over from the I-70 hot tag, is checking us out. Appreciate you being here. And Team Klein is here in the chat. Love having you on here, Team Klein. Thank you very much.
Hello to you gentlemen as well.
So Pat? Pat is muted. I can only imagine what Pat is saying right now.
And we can answer what question I think he's asking.
So let me. So Pat will get his mic fixed, and so I will ask you this question that I've been wanting to ask you for quite a long time. Now you were matched up with after Gaines in the NWL. You became the manager for Moonshine Mantell. So Moonshine started making moonshine. I have had this product, and I was laughing when I bought it because it comes in this little bitty jar. And on Thursday nights, watching the I-70 hot tag, I normally will have a drink or two with the wife. And I just want to know, have you tried it? And if you have, did you chase him around the room screaming and yelling?
See, I'm always the driver is the secret. So when we're coming up from St. Louis, 9 times out of 10, I'm driving. So I don't get to
Right.
partake.
Sure.
And even if I did, I'm not like I'm kind of a lightweight. Like a weird thing about me is I didn't start drinking. I didn't have a drop of alcohol until I was probably about 27 years old. And so I still am not ready that'll make a man out of you. The moonshine Mantel moonshine. I saw Ace Steel take a hit off it. Knew I probably should never drink it because Ace Steel is a man, and I like in a way that I am not. And I saw it put hair on his chest. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to build up for the moonshine that he's making. But I've heard good reviews from everybody that's touched it. Yeah.
I will tell you, we'll just say this: I didn't have another drink that night. And I was talking in a lot lower tone than I am right now. But it's an experience, and I would say if you have a chance, if you're at home in a safe place, it might be good to try.
I don't think Pat's back from the dead yet. I saw his lips moving, but I can't. I got nothing, unfortunately. Just looks like an angry Santa down there. If you guys are not joining us live.
How about this? You got.
Hey, there we
go.
Jesus Christ.
There we go.
Got there.
Well, I was going to say something about Des Moines, but that was 10 minutes ago. So let's just keep I will say this.
It happens.
Since you are the manager of Moonshine, I wanted to show you that. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fan of Moonshine Mantel. Yes.
Very cool.
That is very awesome.
That motherfucker scares the shit out of me. So it's like, you're my favorite wrestler. Don't kill me.
It's so funny because like I'd never met him before we were paired up. Like I mean, it was 2 or 3. I mean, I guess I had done a few NWL shows, but we didn't like hang out, and they were still kind of integrating the KC and the St. Louis shows. So, I mean, we had obviously been around each other, but we didn't really sit and talk. And I always like to tell the story of like the day we got paired up. Dude came up running at me, and he goes, "That's my manager," and he gave me a big hug. And we've been like down in a way that I cannot explain ever since. Like, it's one of those things where I feel like if we'd have met in any other walk of life, it's like that dude and my puny little ass would have very little in common. But through wrestling, man, and we were paired up during like hard times, kind of either for both of us, like big adjustments in our personal lives and stuff. And so, we really grew as friends, and I think that really translate on screen to the ring, whatever you want to say. I mean, that's a very unique partnership.
Yeah, you can really see that you guys just have always had that great chemistry. I love to hate you guys.
And I mean, it was the kind of day one too. Like we, like I said, not having really worked with each other or even really sat and talked or anything much, but from the jump. And usually it takes me a little bit to kind of get a feel for somebody. I think we saw that most recently. The most recent new person have been paired up is the 2 new people, that kind of came along in the Miracle Violence Reborn. In CSWs, we've had Slack, and then we've had Manders, and so getting paired up with those guys has just been it's been kind of it's been a while since I've had somebody totally new, like completely new. So
Manders in your faction now?
Yeah, so I've managed Manders once. He's been kind of in and out because he's in such demand. And it was originally the trios match for coming up here in a couple of weeks on the 30th it had Manders in it, and he had to get pulled for another booking because he's blowing up. So, but luckily that means Derek Neal was available. Derek Neal was able to flex in, so it'll be the last bar fighter, Moonshine Mantel, and Derek Neal now going against the Howlets and their big giant heater. So
you can say that.
Yeah, so it'll be it'll still be great. Obviously, I think any mix of those four guys is fantastic. But yeah, working with Manders, that my point being kind of like, there's a little bit of a feeling out process there because I'd never been on that side of the coin with him. But there was just none of that with Moonshine. So it was really, it's been day one. I mean, it feels like we've been paired up forever now, and now we're getting out into these other areas. It's very, very cool. So I think we've got a couple of other northern shots coming up that are debuts for me. I think he's got a date for us for Rugged Pro at one point, and then also
nice.
Maybe somewhere else up there. I'd have to check my calendar, but kind of any place I can get that partnership to, and with Neil and whoever else wants to come along. But I love managing those two dudes. He's another one, Neil. We've been right from the jump. I feel like just got each other, got where we're coming from. So I love those two guys.
You guys clicked right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely fun to watch. Where's Rugged Pro out of?
I believe they're another Iowa organization, so they're kind of working with 3XW a little bit. Their title has been defended a couple different times. Fuego del Sol, I believe, captured that at the last event that I was at, which I've tried to wipe from my memory, but
no, I get it. I get it.
Nothing to do with Fuego. I don't want that could sound bad, like I tried to wipe his title victory away. That Fuego's Fuego's a lovely man. We had the worst experience of my 20 years almost in this business at 3XW working Nick Eugene Dinsmore.
No.
And it was bizarre, to say the least.
I can imagine. I have been a photographer at a show that he was at, and it was an experience with that even.
I mean, I don't know how far we do or don't want to get into that, but my favorite part was, this dude didn't speak to us the entire time before the match, right? So the whole show going by, not a word. I go out to do my promo, still not a word. I say, good luck, brother, to Moonshine. I go out there, and eventually dude comes out, whatever, we're trying to get into it, and he stops the match cold. And I guess Mantar had died like 6 days earlier. And so he pulled out his phone and started to eulogize Mantar, and not like as a gimmick, like he was really upset about it. And said to the ring announcer, "10 bell salute," which apparently translated, "Do you know how to do a 10 bell salute?" And the ring announcer responded, of course, with "What?" Because he heard the first iteration that I gave you. And then he looked at Moonshine and he goes, "I know this guy knows how to do a 10 bell salute." So we just let Moonshine ring the bell in full gimmick before we fought him, as he read a Wikipedia eulogy for the career of Mantar. And it was downhill from there, folks.
I can only imagine.
I can only worse.
Yeah. It was not our finest performance that night. But.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, really quick, a couple of comments from the chat. Hunter Dillon said, "Country boys seem to be the perfect mix for Jovi's demeanor," which, I mean, let's be honest, you are great hyping your men up because you believe in them, and they're just strong ass kickers, and that seems to be the country demeanor, and you kick ass, on the mic, as well as his next comment says, "Jovi's the only manager I've seen who actually put in the work as a wrestler, not a comedy bit, but a legit wrestler," which gets me into, and I say this all the time to you in person and all the time on Twitter, I watch the match with you and Christian Rose usually once a month or once every other month, just because it's so damn good. And if anyone knew the backstory of that, it was amazing. So if I don't know if Pat's heard about it, but if you want to expand on that or tell a little bit short story of how that all happened.
Yeah, so is it St. Louis Anarchy? And Pat, you may be familiar with Christian Rose from Journey Pro, up in your area. Of course, he was kind of the guy there, if you ask me. I mean, his stuff with Shotzi there was amazing. And that's really what, Christian Rose and I are in the same mindset with stuff like that. And we just don't want to have a match to have a match, like to whatever we're involved in. We want it to mean something, and we want it a build to something and continue to build. He gets how to tell stories in this environment, which I think is really unique because we don't have TV, and we don't have a lot of times even anything in between the bell to bell shows. So to really be able to tell an overarching story is hard, in my opinion, in this setting, because you have guys showing up and guys not making it, and guys getting sick or blowing a tire or getting COVID or whatever. And it gets hard to continue that. And in a situation like Anarchy, they run 6 shows a year. So if you don't make one of those shows, you blow 1 of 6 chances to really continue that arc, and we were able to start something with, when we came back from the pandemic, Moonshine was in the area and able to work Anarchy regularly. So of course I wanted him in the group. And it just kind of came to a point where, okay, Christian Rose is the guy to move out. And when we did the big, so we started at Circus Maximus in 2000, this is 23, so 21.
Yeah.
Circus Maximus 21.
Yeah.
We kick him out of the group. It's the big return, and then that starts this arc of, obviously he wants to gain redemption and fight all my guys and eventually get his hands on me. And we went back that night, and I said, a year from now, I want to wrestle you. Like I want it to be. And we very quickly started talking about, we don't want this to be, a weasel suit Bobby Heenan match. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's sold out a hell of a lot more venues than I'm ever going to sell out at Bobby Heenan's, one of the best of all time. But we wanted it to be a legit fight. We thought that there was a way that we could do it, we could build it so much that we just thought, we knew we could do it in a way where it didn't like crush him because a manager is fighting him. We did it in a way that I always call it the Vince McMahon match. I always would tell people, like, I want to have my Vince McMahon match, because you go back and garbage human being, but if you watch his matches, he's a terrible wrestler, but they are able to construct them where some of the best, some of my best like WrestleMania memories. One of them is him and Shawn at WrestleMania 22, getting to see that live, and so, we just knew we could do it, and the build to it, there was never a break in it. Thank God there were not many beats that had to be missed. And anytime there was, we were able to cover really quickly. And I think it was good because it's so removed from when I started that nobody really knows what my training background is, which is I trained under Dingo. I went there and I said, I want to be a manager, but I want to do everything that everybody else does. I remember like second day of training, everybody gets pushed out of the ring, and I'm there face to face with Dingo, who I watched from the time I was 12, 13 years old. And, he tells me, like, okay, these are, yes, it's fake quotation marks, but a lot of things hurt. This things hurt. These things hurt. I don't remember what the first things were, but I certainly remember forearms are real. And he just, before, it was like the word real didn't get out of his mouth before his forearm was in mine. And it staggered me back, and I fell down, and I was like, this rules, like I wanted to do that. And so from that moment, I was like, I don't want someone to think that I'm trying to be one of those guys that goes, well, I can talk a lot of mess and think I could be a manager. No, like I wanted to really gain people's respect, and so I trained for a good 6 months to a year at Dynamo Dojo, and like Dingo left eventually with his injury, and I credit a lot to Sadie Blaze at Dynamo, and Davey Vega kind of taken up, and it was kind of a conglomerate of those two that got me, like ready. And so when, we flash forward to that match last year in July, no one knew that I was capable of having an actual bell-to-bell match, like because they just had never seen it. I'd done a couple of the little manager matches, but never done an actual match. And within 2 minutes of the match, I'm busted open. And we did that by design of like, we wanted to send a signal real early of, no, we're not screwing around. Like, this is not going to be funny. And we went on to have a match that we both look. I'm very hard on myself. I don't want to speak for Rose, but I'm sure he's the same way. And we both are able to watch that back and go, you know what? Not much would change. And he told me that night, he was like, I think that might be my favorite match I've ever had at Anarchy. And I mean, he's wrestled all all the favorites, and so I think just the fact that we were able to build it up, the environment there that night, and the fact that just everything, with the exception of me throwing the worst curb stomp of all time, everything went perfectly. Yeah. and it we look back on that feud and what we built there as something that's, like I said, incredibly hard to do in this environment, and something that I am extremely, extremely proud of. And then, yeah, I went on to just start managing country folk. I don't really know how that transition happened, but yeah, it did sort of work out that way. Like the formula is the two badass country boys and an angry bald guy. That's kind of like wherever we're at, that's got to be the situation. So
there you go.
The storytelling you had in Journey Pro, God rest its soul. But your whole feud with Kenny, and bringing in the different foils for him, and the matches between Moonshine and Kenny, was that no holds barred in the baseball field is one of my favorite matches. And and then the which, if you don't know Kenny Alfonso, a body like a Greek god, but like he is not tall. He's ripped. He is cut. And dude is talented as hell, but I mean, he's got to be 5'8", 5'9", somewhere in there.
Yeah, probably. He's about my height. Yeah. He's not too much bigger than me.
And and maybe 215, but just jacked.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, 190, somewhere in there, but jacked. And then Kevin Lee Davidson, who I'm 6'2", Kevin Davidson is taller than me, and it just did fucking brick shit house. So it's like the juxtaposition of that, but yeah, that was a whole. I loved that arc of like you guys just trying to take down Kenny, because I mean that brought him from like here to here. It was awesome.
It was definitely my favorite thing that we did at Journey. I that was another one that my goal was for that to end with him getting his hands on me one way or another, and then it just never worked out. Like by the time that thing was wrapping up, I think it was kind of a string of bad luck. I know one time I was already booked somewhere else. Another time my dog passed away like the 2 days before the show. It was just kind of, and then everything kind of started to crumble after that feud. So we never really got to do it, but that was something that I was looking forward to. About the only thing I'd change about that is if I could go back and we really finished that with him getting his hands on me one way or the other. It would have been a nice send off to that, but really proud of the work I got to do there. It was, I think every place I've been is a little bit of growth to get to the point of where I am now. And I really, really enjoyed my time there, and the group of guys that we got to work with and continue kind of growing personally and professionally there was it's always an honor. So maybe down the line there'll be something else, but right now, coming to KC with CSW is same way. I just feel like I said, everything is next. And so it's always on to the next thing, I suppose. Yeah. That's one of the hardest things. It's kind of a moving target. It's like, I want to wrestle outside of St. Louis, and then it's okay, I'm going to KC. Well, I really want to wrestle outside of KC, and I've been here and done this. It's just like you're constantly kind of moving up to the next goal. But yeah,
I know. I've been doing stand-up for 12 years, so I know exactly what you mean. Because it's like, I want to host a show, then I want to feature. Well, then I want to host a show at a different club and get paid. Then I want to, and it's not linear. It's not like, you're like, I want to go to KC and then Denver and then it's like, I want to do this, and then I want to wrestle here, and then I want to manage here, and then I want to manage this person. It's but it's fun like that, because I mean, I always thought it was fun because it's like, you have so many different options. You can set so many different goals. So I mean, that's fucking cool that you can do that.
Well, and I've always got to work on too with myself of taking that step back and realizing like, okay, you promoted 6 years, which is a lot longer than anybody gets to do.
Yeah.
You've been in the business now for, I said 20 earlier. I think that was a gross overshoot, but I think it is more like 14, 15. And I've gone gone here, gone there, you know, and it's got to do stuff that I never thought I'd get to do, you know. Just like I said,
Yeah.
you know, hell, a couple months ago, almost back to back weekends, we got to do a cool thing at 3XW with Buff Bagwell that did the Eugene thing, which was
Yeah.
at least it's got a story out of it.
Yeah.
And
At least.
you know, but yeah,
Right.
sometimes for example, like going to AAW, I've got to call 2 AAW pay-per-views, or PLEs or live streams or whatever you want to call it. And you know, that's a huge honor. But then, you know, that 6 months goes by, a year goes by, you don't go back, and it's like, damn it, I want to go back, or damn it, I should be managing there, and you start getting pissed.
Yeah.
But then you realize, like, okay, you got to take a step back and go, if I never go there again, you know, I was the 15-year-old kid watching Jimmy Jacobs for the IWA Mid-South title in the trash at an AAW show, and then I got to call my best friend winning their heavyweight title in the main event of a show. And so, you know, how's it getting better than that? You know, if I never go back, I get to say that I did that. So yeah, you got to work on kind of like looking at it positively instead of I should be doing this, I should be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And like Hunter was saying, you know, your manager, wrestler, a lot of people don't know that unless they really look into all these shows, they don't know that you had even owned a promotion, or they don't know that you have been on commentary, because you do a lot of commentary with Sean and at Anarchy, and you do the AAW stuff. And I mean, you're not just involved in the manager and stuff. You're involved in a lot more than people actually realize, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on here, because you have a wealth of knowledge, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just the break glass times when I get to hop on with Anarchy is always super fun. I really loved it. I think I did my best work as far as color commentary and all that stuff goes, really, with consistently with Glory Pro. I got to, you know, there was like they kept. I got to be a little bit of a diva, which I'm kind of growing into in my older age, but they had thrown me commentary partner after commentary partner, and I hated all of them. And finally, I was like, guys, just let me do it by myself, please. And they're like, yeah, sure, try it out by yourself this next time. And I got to call probably a year or so of Glory shows, Joey style, and you know, to start to finish by myself. Or you know, even better, that would then open it up for a few different times. I think there's 3 or 4 Glory shows, and then I know the famed Blizzard show for St. Louis Anarchy. Eddie Kingston hopped on with me, and I got to do commentary with Eddie Kingston. And so, you know, you got cool opportunities that way of doing it by yourself. So yeah, those times were really
Get this guy the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Team Klein said, hell of a moment when Fitchett won the belt. Personally, I think you and Vols had very good chemistry together.
Yeah, I only think I got to work with Vols once. It was the last time I went there. It was their big, like the Windy City Classic event, like their big event. I think when Fitchett won the title, yeah, because when the match that I got to call with Vols was Ace Steel versus Fitchett in a street fight when he was defending the belt, which was really, you know, that was great too. Because you know, I look up to Ace obviously, and Fitchett's, you know, been one of my best friends since middle school. And then the other two were with Joe Dombrowski, who I actually like. I kind of tell people, like, kind of half joking but half not. I mean, I've had good commentary partners. Like, I think the work me and Matt Jackson did for WrestleMax was always super fun. But Joe Dombrowski was the first guy that I sat next to and was like, oh wow, you're way better than me. Like, you know, you're not on the same level or worse. I can learn something from you. And he has always been very nice. Like, we worked together only twice, and then not this year, but I think maybe the year before, WrestleMania weekend, he wasn't able to do the AAA show that was happening around WrestleMania, and he threw my name into the hat and asked for me to send some stuff over. And even though, yeah, obviously I didn't get that event, but just the fact that he thought enough of me to mention me was very, very cool. So,
where do I know the name from?
Joe Dombrowski did a lot of Ring of Honor stuff before it was bought. and
That's
then he
right.
does AAW and a lot of East Coast stuff. So
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I knew it from.
yeah, super smart dude, and really, like I said, was the first guy that I sat down. I was like, oh wow, you get it. Like there was a lot of
Yeah.
little nuanced stuff that I learned from him just in those 2 shows of letting shows breathe and how to call it like a TV product. Because the first one that we did was their YouTube show that they were doing at the time, Alive, and then the second time
Okay.
I got to kind of do the big dance and do the Windy City Classic against Fitchett, where Fitchett won the belt from Fred Yehi. And that was really, really cool. I mean, it was that one I felt like, okay, the first one it was learning from him. The second one I kind of felt like I was on, I was picking up the stuff that he was getting me to do. But so yeah, it was cool to learn from him and kind of step in and get to see that, because there's always something you can learn from everybody. Don't get me wrong, but from the commentary perspective, a lot of times you're just sort of on with whoever is there, and unless you're lucky to be on with a guy like Jackson or Gabe, somebody like that. But
Yeah.
it's really, really, really special to get to work that show all in all. And yeah, I'm glad Klein shouting it out. That was I always
That's awesome.
it was cool to know that like that people from St. Louis were watching that, and also I got live, the internet pay-per-view, packed house in Chicago, and I got in the house and they did like an in-ring like ECW used to do when they open up on the announcers, and that's how we went live. And right before we went live with that on that show, somebody was like, at the time I was doing the Jesus nickname, and somebody shouted that out in Chicago, and I was like, hell yeah, man. Like somebody,
that's awesome.
That's so cool.
they get it,
Yeah.
Really quick, I just wanted to say I've been watching wrestling since I was like 3 years old. I've always wanted to be an announcer, but knowing me, if you've seen the movie Major League, I'd be like Bob Uecker's sidekick, fly ball, caught. That'd be me.
I don't know. Forgive me if I've already told this in either one of your presences or on my I-70s show appearances, but I mean, one of the big things that got me to I always wanted to do it as well, but the first time I ever kind of felt like, wow, maybe this is something I really can do. As a fan, me and a group of friends would always meet, and it's got all guys that if you watched PWCS, you're familiar with. So Jason, the guy that helped me run it, Pat, who is like the world's sound man in St. Louis now.
Oh yeah.
Dan, my good buddy, he was always at the door and kind of was a jack of all trades. He kind of would always help out with the ring crew and like I said, ticket taking and merchandise and stuff. Those guys were my best friends, and we would go up and down to all the WrestleManias from like 22 to 27. I think we went to all of them.
Oh
wow! So we would go to WrestleMania 25 in Houston, and we went to like the All Access or whatever they're calling it these days. And there was a booth where you got to call a match, and my buddy, was in front of the line in front of me. He was like the last guy to get to call a match with Jim Ross. And I was so jealous because I was like, man, I really wanted him to call it with Jim Ross, and he switched out with Michael Cole. And it was probably the coolest thing that could have happened, because we went back and watched the tapes that you gave, and like Jim Ross did not care to be there. Michael Cole was actually super nice. And so I sat down and I go, I've always had a dream of being like a heel commentator, like, Bobby Heenan or Jim Cornette or whatever. And he was like, oh, we're making dreams come true. It's what you paid your money for, man. Let's do it. And we called, you got to call like the back half of a match with Michael Cole, and he's setting me up and I'm knocking him down, just like, and I could tell he's laughing. And then I look up and Josh Matthews is there. Watching, like leaning over watching us, and I go over to my buddy. I'm like, you see Josh Matthews is watching? And he goes, yeah. He's like, he wasn't the only one. And he showed a picture of like everybody's got a shit-eating grin on their face of Michael Cole, Josh Matthews, and Joey Styles are all like, gathered around, and it's like the coolest photo that I have from just my time as a fan. And so it was like, man, maybe this needs to be a real goal. Like nobody else. I sat in line for quite some time, and nobody else was doing that. So it was like, okay, let's actually work on this. And that's why I went and did the training and all the stuff I talked about earlier. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
very awesome.
To get flowers from Michael Cole because underrated. Everybody, I've always liked him. Even when he had Vince in his ear, I always liked him. Now that he's kind of got the the blinders off and he can have fun, motherfucker is just amazing. So to get some to get something like that from Michael Cole, that's like, oh shit, I must be good at this.
Yeah,
exactly.
I do think we might look back, when I'm the third old goat, we might we might look back on Michael Cole as the greatest of all time. Like, I know it's been Jim Ross for a long, long time, but Michael Cole's done it at a very, very high level with a lot of different partners now, and like you said, you do see even a change now. He used to be kind of loosen it up a little bit, and but yeah, I mean, I've always thought I think it's just kind of like the society that we live in that hates greatness, right? Like, and so we at some point during my lifetime we went from idolizing greatness. I was a kid. It was like everybody looking up to Michael Jordan, and I'm a hockey guy, so Brett Hall and Wayne Gretzky, like and everybody loving those guys and wanting to be them, and it's like, and now it's like 20 years later, those guys that are in those spots as the best people in the world, we just want to hate them and knock them down.
I think part of it might also be that we grew up with Jordan and Jim Ross and all that, and then these people come along that are good, and we're like, you're not Jordan.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not Ross. You're not so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Josh from I-70 hot tag. Hey, Quiet Wyatt, one of my buddies from work. There's a special one for you there, Quiet Wyatt. I'll give you one too, Josh. All right, everybody gets it. Anyway. But yeah,
so Hunter said that. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Hunter said really quick, Greg's character is one that everybody loves to hate, but I can safely say I like this guy. He's one of those type of people that I could see going out to a pub with and having a great conversation. I mean, yeah, obviously, we wouldn't have you on if we weren't, interested in the great conversation. And
that's why we didn't have Moonshine on. You're a much better interview.
No, we didn't want to have Moonshine on because he's in Kansas City, and if we pissed him off, he'd come beat us up.
Oh fuck! I'm in Kansas City.
Yeah, see.
JG, edit that bit out.
No, so
love you, Moonshine.
What's funny about that comment is, like, I don't think that my character, so to speak, like, I mean, it's not like I'm wearing a clown suit and be or being like like I don't have this gimmick, like, and that's what I've often wondered of, like, how did it come to where it is now? And I think you just mind meld with your character, and I've been able to take the real parts of myself and say it out. And I think I say how I feel with conviction, and I think it's just that I am able to talk down to people, and in a way that's like, I am right, you are wrong, and you know it. And it's a manipulative person. It's the character. I think that's where the hate maybe comes in at, is that it's you're not necessarily wrong, but man, I really don't like what you're doing with the information. Like, correct message, wrong messenger kind of thing, and a lot of times. And I don't know. I like the way that it's developed naturally over the years. Here recently, I went back and watched my first promo where I kind of had the Jesus character, which I think what I do now is still a continuation of that. And I talked ad nauseum about how that was based on Kanye West and the kind of his media persona of somebody that's so great at what he does, but they just hate. They hate him anyway. But you have to admit that he's the best, even if you hate him. And
a lot of times I'll say that about a lot of people say that about Heyman. He's just so great at what he does, and I know I've said this around in your presence before that I kind of liken you to Heyman, not necessarily the same like character, but your convictions with your wrestlers is real. I mean, they're badasses. They can go beat someone up, and I compare you to not necessarily character-wise, but like level of intensity, level. So I always say you're the Paul Heyman of the Indies. They just haven't seen you yet.
Well, that's a huge compliment, and I do think that there are a lot of similarities. I wouldn't put myself on that level. I'll leave that to other people to say. But
sure.
I'm extremely egotistical, but I'm not that egotistical.
Right.
But yeah, I do. I studied his work, and I wanted to be. I mean, he was my idol. The reason I wanted to promote was because of Paul Heyman. The reason I wanted to be a manager was because of guys like Paul Heyman. Commentator, I wanted to do everything that he did. And so yeah, that clearly means a lot to me to hear that. And yeah, I think that's where that's what I like about Heyman too, is that Heyman is just himself. He's just a guy, but and a lot of times what he says is not wrong, but it's the way he goes about doing it, the way he conducts his business that pisses people off. And so yeah, I try to take as much of that as I can.
If people would just understand you more, that's the only thing. I mean, hey, Pat, do you want to read that next question I see in the chat from that I-70 guy? I think I've heard this before. But...
Oh yeah, I've never heard this. Can you tell me the promo you cut on the Dirt Cheap chicken?
Oh yeah. So Dirt Cheap is like I don't know if you guys have him up that way.
We did not.
Louis, my wife's from St. Louis, so she's had me watch the commercials. They're hysterical.
Yeah, so anybody that's unaware, there's a chain of liquor stores around here called Dirt Cheap, and they have a mascot that is a chicken. And they had a commercial at one point in time where he was wrestling famed South Broadway competitor Johnny Courageous, who my girlfriend famously tells me the first time she ever went to a local wrestling show, Johnny Courageous broke his neck, and so and yet she survived and is still loving the sport upstairs watching Dynamite as we speak. And so, but it was a deal where like he clotheslines Johnny Courageous and beats him, and I don't know, he was probably representative of high liquor prices or something. But
probably.
And so I got the call to go down to Dynamo and train, because I gave the information to Matt Fitchett, because I was like, you're the right combination of athletic and crazy to be really, really good. You should go down and train. And he was there for a few months, and he's like, okay, now it's your turn. You're going to come down and tell them you want to manage. And so he sends me a text message. He's like, hey, they want you to send some promos in before they let you come down. So I filmed two. I filmed one where I'm hyping up Fitchett for his debut, and I film another one where I talk about how I'm bringing to St. Louis a killer, a true champion, an undefeated professional wrestler in St. Louis, like the likes of which you've never seen. That's right. I'm bringing the Dirt Cheap Chicken, and he is going to wage war across St. Louis professional wrestling. And I guess in some way, that is how I ended up training to manage, because they liked that promo, told me to come down. So
please tell me there's video of that somewhere.
Man, it's probably long dead. It was before the days of YouTube, I think, even. And so, yeah, I think my Dirt Cheap Chicken promo is long dead.
I can't stop laughing every time I hear that. It just cracks me up. Pat, do you have any more questions there?
I remember at the baseball show, you burned the shit out of me, because you were mouthing off. You said something. You're like, oh, why don't you all shut up or something like that? And I went, why don't you? And it was so dry there that my voice just gave out. And you just turned around. I stopped. I'm like, why don't you? I couldn't talk, and you turned and you went, yeah, that's why you're sitting down and I'm up here. And I was like,
I always like the little interactions like that. Like if I could send somebody away with like a little morsel like that, like the 3XW show, there was this lady in a wheelchair in the front row at the last, like the one at Woolies downtown. And her like son or grandson or whatever, he's in this like stained white beater, and he's giving me the business, and I'm going back and forth with him all match. About halfway through the match, I put my hand up to the guy's ear like this, like so he can't see what I'm saying, and I go to the wheelchair lady, because she's just hating me just as much, and I go, honey, is he in charge of you? Do you need me to call somebody? Like, and little stuff like that. Like if I could send somebody away, like, oh man, I had that one interaction. Like
it's
you know.
just great. And I don't think Pat was there for this one. Pat, did you go to Horseman Country?
No, I missed that one.
Okay, so this will forever be in my memories when Moonshine was facing Dak. And of course, you come out, you guys are all hyped up. I'm sitting at the timekeeper's table. I think Jason Jones was the announcer. So I'm sitting there, and he's next to me. Next thing I know, because Greg and I didn't talk backstage or anything, Moonshine has Dak over in the corner. Greg grabs the bell, and my instant reaction is to grab it. Don't let him get the bell. It's the bell. You can't let him have it. And so, like, we have a little tug back and forth, and then I realize, oh shit, I shouldn't be doing this. He needs this. So I let go, right? Go over there. He smacks Dak in the back with it. And later on, I was just like, what? But right after you took it, I heard a little kid behind me. I don't know if it was a boy or girl or whatever. And you went running across and like, Daddy, he took the bell. I was like, so people saw that. I wish that they would have got that on camera. They did not because they were focused obviously on the wrestlers. But that little interaction, this little stuff like that is what I think makes you so great, because like you didn't even say, Bryan, let go. You just kind of kept going with it. And I was like, oh shit. But it was like one of those moments that was, for me, that's like the perfect thing to have in wrestling, and that's another thing that just sticks out in my mind from that. It was a lot of fun, but
now, I will, have you ever had any acting or improv or any kind of training like that? Or is this, because your wit is, is it just, or is it just, that's just Greg?
I guess it's just natural. I hanging out with guys like very quickly, even before really even training, I was hanging out with guys like Casey Carrington and Stephen Kennedy, which if you're watching from the St. Louis area, you'll know.
Oh yeah.
And they're very quick, and so you got to keep up if you want to be in a circle like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I never really did have anything like that. I always enjoyed public speaking. So I remember being told in college I should be on the debate team, and I was like, I'm in a community college. If you think I'm getting on a bus with these other poors to go be on the debate team, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But I would, I did always like doing that, and I grew up watching like Whose Line Is It Anyway, and different things like that did involve improv and stuff. So yeah, and I was a huge stand-up comic fan. So I think putting all that, taking things from, and I always tell people when I'm talking about promos or character building or whatever, I'm like, don't obviously watch wrestling, but that's where you're going to learn how to do a suplex. That's where you're going to learn how to, do this, do that. But if you want to build a character, look at these other forms of media. Like, watch your favorite movies, find characters that interest you there. Watch stand-up comedy, pull bits of crowd interaction, music, television, whatever. Because I like the Drew Gold character that really started me because at first when I started wrestling, I was just a guy in a suit that said things. Like there was not much of a character there. And then having to grow that Drew Gold agent character, I always told people I drew from Drew Rosenhaus, I remember the interview where Terrell Owens is just doing sit-ups in his driveway and Drew Rosenhaus is talking for him. And I always thought, I was like, man, what a heel. Like, that is a pro wrestling heel right now. And Ari Gold, that was where the name came from Entourage.
Nice.
And so it was kind of a combination of that. And then so when NWL closes down, I was listening to a podcast called Dissect, and it was all about Kanye West's life and his music. And I kind of drew some parallels between, his life path was like normal, intelligent dude who loses his mother and a relationship very close together and kind of goes crazy. And I was at the point in my life where I was like, that matches up pretty darn close right now. And
Yeah.
I started listening to his music and stuff like that, and okay, how are some of his mannerisms and some of the stuff that we could fit in there. So that's always the advice I give to people, is that is to try to pull from those other forms of media like you're talking about. So I guess it's just me, but in a way it's a conglomerate of all the things I've ever liked.
Yeah. Oh no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I do the same thing with stand up. You try to pull from, pull shit from work, from family, from, and from different forms of media and stuff. In fact, one of the things, because I've been a fan, back in like WrestleMania 3 was the first wrestling show I watched was WrestleMania 3 at my buddy's birthday party. But anyway, I was always a fan of the entrances and stuff. So like when I come out on stage, if I have enough room, I mean, if it's like a little postage stamp, I can't, but if I have enough room, I'm up there, I'm getting the crowd hyped and stuff. And I drew that from the wrestling entrance, just seeing everybody come down to the ring and stuff. So yeah, same thing, other side of the fence where, you can draw anything, you can draw any kind of inspiration from any kind of media and stuff. So no,
that's always been a fight for me too, is I've always liked the idea of me having entrance music and then because I want that reaction of like, oh man, it's this guy. And before I even talk. And that was a fight for a while, because everybody's like, well, manager doesn't have entrance music. And I'm obviously still losing the battle at some places because I don't have it at CSW. But I've always thought like, oh, this is a stage setter like that. And wrestling fans know managers don't get ring music. So I want somebody to be like, how egotistical does this guy think he is? He thinks he deserves his own entrance.
Right. I mean, maybe I should talk to Strider about that, because I mean, I've been supporting his new tattoo business quite a bit.
Oh, there you go. It's not something I push super hard for, but I got a little more pull at places like Anarchy and stuff. I could sling it around a little bit more, but that's always my deal. It's like and that's why though. It's not just that I am egotistical and want it, but it's like I know that will be people's thought. So like I remember, since he's on the chat, I assume he's still here. I remember. It was a long time it was probably 3 or 4 seasons in before we put over my team for the PWCS championship. And it was always because like I didn't, me, the person, didn't want to seem like I'm putting myself over, but then at some point it's the character is that it's the New York Yankees, right? They're the dominant team. They pull all the big money talent, and they try and build this super team every year. Well, eventually that team has to win, or what is the threat? And so we finally pull the trigger on it. And I remember I grabbed the trophy and I look over and I lock eyes with Klein, and he's like just like a typical promoter putting himself over. And for a second I was like, man, I really hope he doesn't mean that, because that struck right into like my insecurities.
Right. But I mean, people think of seasons, they think of 3-4 months. Your season went an entire year, so I mean, to go 3 or 4 years before that even happens, that's I think Klein knows that's a respectable at least. But yeah, I don't have anywhere to use ring entrance music other than walking into work.
There you
my
go.
Phone in my hand,
a little fanfare,
a little phone in my hand in action. So, speaking of music, we are putting together a list of songs that we're first week. We each put 3 songs on this playlist that we're making for Spotify. Our last guest, Corey Castle.
Yes,
I got it right this time. So we put another song on there. Every week we're putting a song on, and have our guest also put a song onto our playlist. So is there any one song right now that you're listening to that you could contribute to our Spotify playlist? And then we'll tell you ours. If you need a second to think about it, Pat and I can also do ours right now.
You guys go ahead and roll, because I've got a couple ideas, but you guys do yours.
I'm going to let Pat go first, because I don't want him to get mad at mine. I know he will.
Yeah, probably will. Okay, so last week my wife and I went to a goth show, because, I'm so gothy. But we saw this band, Urban Heat. It's this 3-piece out of Austin. And you know, they only have 35,000 monthly Spotify listeners. I want to bump that up with all our viewers and listeners. So I am adding Urban Heat Have You Ever to the Two Old Goats Pod playlist. That's how you find it on Spotify. Search Two Old Goats Pod playlist. And it'll come up with my name because it's my Spotify account.
So, you guys know me, you've talked to me in person. I'm not really one to push buttons in person, more so on Twitter, but what I say on Twitter, sometimes I mean. And I do this to push buttons, but also because I feel that, I'll just say.
You're going to put the fucking song I'm thinking you're going to put.
Yes. I'm going to put Cult of Personality by Living Colour.
I knew it.
Because, honestly, I liked that song in the late 80s when it came out. And for the band to have a guitarist play 2 solos that good was just too good. So it is one of my favorite songs. Whether you relate it to CM Punk or not, I love that song.
I think, is Greg just staring or is he frozen?
I think Greg might be frozen.
Am I back?
You're back. Yep,
all right.
You're back. We got you. I thought you were just enamored with my song choice.
I was so
so enamored.
Yeah, I was so in awe. The other one, like everybody knows, it's called The Personality. But I love Rears Its Ugly Head by the same band, by Living Colour.
That was on that Time's Up?
Yeah, I think so. Their
second album. They were my favorite band in like 8th grade. So and honestly, that the album Vivid still holds up. I just listened to it like last year. Still fucking holds up.
It's a great album.
So okay, your turn, Greg.
So I tried to go a couple different ways. So I thought about your way, Pat, of wanting to like shine some light on something, because I went and saw the last concert I went to was Paramore, and their opening band was a band called the Linda Lindas, and they have a song called Growing Up, and they were out there rocking up, and then one of them was like, oh yeah, I'm 18, this person on drums is 14. Our bass, I think the youngest was 12, and I was like, Jesus, what am I doing with my life? Yeah, dude, it was dope. So I thought about that. I thought about we're talking entrance music, and currently the one I'm using at Anarchy is Crown by Jay-Z. So I thought about putting a little hip hop flavor onto your playlist, but I'll pull from myself. The one, like the song I'm probably listening to on repeat the most lately is so. I mean, the persona I put out there, and don't get me wrong, a huge part of my musical interest is hip hop. But my favorite artist of all time is Ben Folds. One of the singles from his newest album is "Exhausting Lover," and it's just a really fun, dope little pop song. So I will say, for you guys, can throw on "Exhausting Lover" by Ben Folds for me.
Exhausting Lover by Ben Folds.
Love Ben Folds.
Add it to the playlist.
Hey, I put a semi-hip-hop one on there first. A song called Pluto by Two Skinny Jays.
Okay.
They're kind of like a rock hip-hop-ish.
Yeah.
They're from New York, and none of their songs are serious. Like, absolutely none of them. Just hilarious stuff.
I'm just looking at this. We got 42 minutes of music, and this one fucked up playlist.
That's what it's supposed to be, though.
Oh,
it's not supposed to make any sense. It's just supposed to be us.
You could put this on a road trip, so you could just be like, what?
Why am I listening to this? Yeah.
Sam and Dave, followed by freaking Rage Against the Machine. So yeah. All right. Oh.
It's just fun stuff anyway, So
I love it, yeah. But yeah, and I'm a huge fan of yours. Just right away, I was like, and I said it before, I love to hate this guy, and and I know it's one of those weird compliments that it's like you want to you like to hear it because you're like, I really did my job well,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I don't mean it backhanded or anyway like that. I'm just like,
No, not at all. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
there's no bigger compliment than you could give me than that. Honestly, yeah, that's why I don't know. I gotta log off sometimes. Gotta get on these Twitter rants. My biggest Twitter rant target
True.
before they turned him face was L.A. Knight. And I was just like, I don't understand a heel that wants to be cheered. Like I don't. That
Yeah.
doesn't compute with me. My job is to
No.
go out there and get booed and to get my clients booed. And so, I want somebody in that audience to go home actually hating me. I want
Wait.
someone to be like, and that I do not like that guy.
you
And
get that? Do you get that?
Yeah. I actually when I went to the very first NWL show when they had it at the Scottish Rite Temple.
yeah,
The first show I went to with my son, who's friends with Kenny, and actually I think Kenny and Mighty Micah and a couple other guys were with us. Christian Rose came out, just sat on the ring apron and just started talking, and I was like, I can't stand this guy. Like I legit did not like it. And then like after the show even, and then of course afterwards, talking to him and all that stuff, I'm like, yeah, he just does his job really, really well. Because so you've been saying you want to go on you were going on these Twitter rants. Is there anything you want to get off your chest about professional wrestling in the television world right now? Because we don't mind.
it's one of those deals. I'm
You know?
not going to weigh in on like what
Right.
is happening necessarily, because I think that's the biggest part of the problem, right? Is there's too many
Yeah.
people that don't know what they're talking about, that
Mhm.
are having strong opinions on something that they think happened one way or the other. Like there's too much on both sides of the coin.
Right.
And it really comes down to things like, and I said this during one of my many should have logged off, not hit send moments, but
Right.
I think it comes from I used to be a dirt sheet guy, and I wanted all the information and this and that, and I
Mhm.
really, having a partner that's a journalist really changes your mind on the way that all that is covered.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody was not worried about being first, and I said this the other night, I said I don't know of any other industry. Like I couldn't imagine being a Marvel fan and being like, I don't give a shit about the movies. Like I want to know, like, does Robert Downey Jr. like the rest of them? Like, is he a good guy? Is he an asshole? Did he spit in
Yeah.
somebody's face at catering last week before he was Iron Man? Like, no, I just want to watch Iron Man. Like, I don't care what
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. is like. Like, it's I think it's because it's a blurred lined industry that the lines mix between regular life and sport and entertainment and all kind of converge in this wild, wacky world of pro wrestling that I don't think people know how to react to it. Like, but I wish that that the term wrestling journalist applied more to like something that that my girlfriend Carrie put over a lot when it happened, was the way that
Mhm.
Cody's return was covered by Vanity Fair. It wasn't like, oh
Right.
my God, we heard tonight Cody Rhodes is coming back, and they
Mhm.
had a whole article with interviews with him about coming back and how he felt, mindset, and blah blah blah. And as soon as his music hit WrestleMania, that shit dropped online. And I was like, I just wish more people covered what was happening in pro wrestling rather than what three people who have some sort of weird
Mhm.
sicko fan base want you to think is happening behind the scenes. Like,
Right.
there's so much going on right now that it just, and I think that what makes me upset I will say, to completely remove myself from
Mhm.
being a pro wrestler and just as a fan of wrestling and a fan, quite frankly, of CM Punk, like that, I think 99% of the problems that happened because everybody had a story and everybody's leaking
Mhm.
something, and there's always somebody with an agenda that wants to wants to get their version out there. Well, then the other side's got to get their version out there, and just like, if that all could have happened behind closed doors and
Mhm.
we never knew about it, like I might still get to watch one of my favorite wrestlers of all time every week. But because it was constantly a stoked fire,
Mhm.
I think that's what led us to this point. And I don't think I'm curious as if this is the last time we're going to see that. Like, everybody wants to blame this one person, what happens the next time that something happens and it blows up? And it's just like the problem really is with, and it's never, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? So we're never going to change the way we cover it because people are never going to stop talking to the Brian Alvarez's, the Meltzers, the this and that. But like really, those people and the way they go about their business kind of are the problem. Like, if you were just doing match ratings and reporting on what happened on screen, like, world would be a better place. But everybody's got to try to break the news of who stepped on whose shoe behind the scenes, and it's just like, man, who cares?
And I mean, to me, the part of the problem is like everybody, like you said, everybody wants to know what's going on backstage, and it's like, I liken it to like in the 80s. If this would have happened in the 80s, number one, nobody would have known about it.
Yeah.
Just for the simple fact that you didn't have all these writers back there because not everybody wanted to know. You just wanted to go and watch the wrestling, cheer the faces, boo the heels, and life was good. And that's kind of what, it frustrates me about the whole thing as well.
And then, to the other side of that, is, of course, we can't go back to that time. I think we all agree that would be better than if we could, but we can't. So it's like, okay, we've handed this over to you guys now. We've handed this over to this select group of people because there's a million different idiot websites, but I mean, there's like 5 people that people actually listen to.
Yeah.
And, and in that trusted few, it's like you are kind of handed the health of the wrestling world right now. And I feel like they're mishandling it. And that's what really gets me angry, I guess. Because it just is, and some of that stuff, like, there may be a culture issue there too. Like, I'm not blaming them completely because I do compare it to, like, we did find out months later during the Cody Seth Rollins feud that there was like a backstage dust up between them, but you didn't hear peep about that until they wanted you to hear about that. And so, there is an issue there of like, okay, what are these avenues and who is allowing this to happen? But I think a big thing with that is like, I'm more willing to say I don't know, so let's just continue with our lives. And I just don't understand how so many people like have these strong, dark opinions. I can see being like, well, I don't like this guy because of this or that, right? This whole thing rubbed me the wrong way, or whatever. But these people that are just like, fuck this guy who I've never met and never will, and whose existence has no issue on my life. Like, why are you so angry? I don't know. I think there's a lot of really, really good stuff going on, and I would like people to focus on that,
And I know Pat doesn't necessarily like CM Punk.
Not at all.
And my boss is the same way. But I asked my boss, I was like, why don't you like CM Punk? And this conversation happened just today. Yeah. And he's like, I don't like him because he thought he was a badass going into the MMA and got his ass kicked twice. I was like, what did that do to you? And he's like, well, nothing. He just made an ass of himself. I was like, so he made an ass of himself. That's on him. He's like, it was just kind of a dick thing to do. I was like, yeah, okay.
There's a million different, there's a million different reasons to not like someone. Like, so like, Pat, I'm never going to tell you, oh my God, you got to like this guy. You don't, obviously. No. Like,
it's you anyway, because
you know what I'm saying? Like, but that's a huge part of it though, right? Like, I have a little bit of the syndrome too. Like, this is kind of how I started on my LA Knight rant. I have a little bit of a syndrome of, like, for example, I've never seen the series Breaking Bad. And you know why I've never seen the series Breaking Bad? Everybody told me you have to watch Breaking Bad. And actually, you know what? I fucking don't. I can continue to watch the Golden Girls every night like I do in bed and be a happy person and be super fulfilled. I don't have to do that. So when you start telling me something is the greatest thing ever, I get a little skeptical and I want to poke some holes, So like, that's why I've been so vocal lately about, everybody talks about how great of a promo LA Knight is. And, oh my God, he's such a good promo. Why did he just spend a month telling us how shitty The Miz is? Because once he either beats or gets beat by The Miz, what does it mean then? You either beat a nobody or you got beat by a nobody. Like, to me, there are fundamental issues. And like, one thing that really baffled me was like, we're watching it live. Obviously, I don't follow Twitter. I don't follow anything. So I'm watching the his tribute quote unquote promo to Bray Wyatt, which basically amounted to, I don't really know the guy. I don't really like the guy. We wrestled once. I'm going to talk about me for quite some amount of time, and then I'm going to hit his catchphrase. Like, that was not, to me, it wasn't a great look. It was like that didn't need to happen. You didn't have to send the guy out there that didn't really know him that well to talk about
the people on the roster,
Yeah, like he could have just went out there and done his. We could all just enjoy wrestling for about 10 minutes and let him do his promo, and then maybe hit the the line at the end, and then we would have been just fine. But yeah, I don't know. That's one of the. I've always kind of been that way though. With some, and I think a little bit of it is because I am an asshole, and so especially you tell me somebody's a good promo. Woo, they better be real good because I'm going to compare them to me, and I think I'm really good. So,
I've seen a lot of promos in my day, and it takes a lot to get a good one on me.
But yeah, I mean, that's a big deal right now. The other big thing you talk about TV wrestling is like So we have a gentleman named Big Bronson Reed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every Monday night we pick Big Bronson Reed up and slam him down like it's fucking nothing.
Yep.
And then Friday night they do a match between AJ Styles and Solo Sikoa, and they run a spot where he's trying to pick Solo up and he can't for a good portion of the match. And my girlfriend points out, she's like, see, like that's what they should be doing with Bronson. And I was like, yeah, not only are they not doing that on Monday, and it makes Bronson look stupid because everybody's just picking him up and throwing him around. It makes AJ Styles look stupid on Friday because can't, he must be a weak little bitch. He can't pick up that guy that's small. That guy didn't have Big in his name, Yeah,
exactly. So real quick, I had some comments from Hunter Dillon in the chat. Hunter's a great friend. He says, Greg is saying what we're all thinking. I wholeheartedly agree. Earlier on, he said, Golden Girls, okay. Jovi, I used to like you, but now I freaking love you. and his last note is, he said, side note, is it just me or does Greg look jacked? And I mean that as a compliment.
I've been hearing that lately from the little old ladies at my shoot job. Like, so yeah, I'm trying to bulk up, man.
Little old ladies
like
at my shoot
girls because you're surrounded by old ladies. Is that?
Pretty much, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Are you surrounded by old ladies because you like Golden Girls?
It might be, I think I'm not sure whether the chicken or the egg came first, but believe it or not, the guy on the weekend that yells obscenities at people, I'm the executive director of an assisted living in my real life, so I.
So you get to yell at people who can't hear you.
Plus, Mabel.
Yeah.
Well, now we know why you talk so loud.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so,
but before we go anywhere, though, I don't want to seem I don't want to seem like a curmudgeon either. Like, I really love a lot of the stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
Like the Judgment Day stuff is so fun to watch, man. Like the reactions that Dom's getting, and the fact that people will sometimes they'll be a big thing with him or with Don Callis, and somebody will tag me and say that's a similar sound. Like, that's dope to me because I even compare to what they're doing is so cool. I really have been putting over so hard the international title run of Orange Cassidy and the buildup of the injuries, and the way that they built to that title change that he had just fought and couldn't fight anymore. I think you built a star there out of a guy that a couple of years ago everybody said couldn't work and was a gimmick.
Yeah, definitely.
To see the rise of guys like him and Darby Allin and MJF and there's just so much good young talent out there right now on TV. And then you got Billy Starks is coming up the pipeline and Nick Wayne. Some of these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. So the as much as I have my issues and it's really fun to rant and be a bitter old vet, there's a lot of good going on right now, and we're at such a healthy, fun spot to be a wrestling fan and be a wrestler.
Absolutely.
It's a really, really exciting time, even with all the dark cloud stuff going on,
I want to give a shout out because Impact is the only show that I watch religiously. I catch WWE and AEW here and there, but I love Impact. And Jason Hotch, one of the good hands. I used to ring announce him back at EHF and PWK in Indiana, and then I'd flip on the TV, and there he is on Impact.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, honey, I announced him to the ring a couple of times.
Yeah. I mean, and Jake Something's there.
Yeah.
No, I love Jake. Yeah.
And
it's got to be cool for you because you've been around for so long to see like some of these people go on to bigger and better. Well, I saw Davey Vega take on Jake Something a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was so cool for him, man. Like because I think but yeah, it is cool to see those guys that guys like him, guys like people like Billy Starks is there, Athena, these people that I've crossed paths with. There's been a couple times like when NXT was NXT, when it was like really the indie brand.
Yeah.
I remember going a couple times to the Family Arena and kind of leaving the show going, wow, like there was a 8-match card, and I think I've shared the ring with at least one person in 6 matches, and seeing like going to AEW, and I got to see Vega and Fitchett and Moonshine and now Neil was on Collision and GPA was on Collision and
the Howlett.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get to see the guys that are hustling and see them make it. And I sometimes it's weird to think like, man, maybe you're just one or two of those guys getting signed away from someone saying the right thing about you. It's because it's easy to get discouraged, especially in my role, because don't get me wrong, it's not easy to make it as a wrestler, but to make it as a color commentator or a manager feels, because
there's that many. There's that few. It's a smaller circle.
Exactly, and so
you'll have 12 matches. You have 2 commentators the whole show.
Exactly, and so many places, even the big places, not big like the Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, but like even there are indies that I want to go to, and it's like, we already got a guy. And it's like, yeah, but you don't have me, and I'm the best in the world, so I can coexist with your guy. But there's a lot of that stuff that you run into. But yeah, you never know. And I look at a guy like Eddie Kingston, and I am far and away not Eddie Kingston's best friend, but we've had a lot of, and I don't mean that as that we do or don't like each other. We very much like each other, but I'm just saying, if you were like, name 100 people in the wrestling business, my name would not come up. But if you ask me who my favorite person in the wrestling business is, I'm going to say Eddie Kingston, because like just a down loyal dude, like such a good, like, I don't know if I've ever told this story on a podcast or anything, but I had not known him that long. I'd done commentary with him a couple of times, and Danny Daniels put out a tweet from the AAW account, said, where are all the good indie managers these days? And I was like, started going through all my contacts, like who can I talk to get my information to him? And I hit up Eddie, and I was like, hey, I know, we've only worked together a few times, whatever, but blah, blah, blah. It's in a spiel. And without question, he said, send me your stuff. I'll get it to him. And the next time I saw him was at Glory Pro, and he gave me a big hug. And he was like, hey, man, just so you know, I gave you stuff to Danny, but it probably wasn't the best time because I also fought a fan. But, but like, just the best dude, like, and so to see a guy like that, it's like, man, I remember sitting outside of a Glory Pro show, and he's smoking a cigarette going, yeah, I don't know, man, like the WWE wants me to be a coach, and I don't want to do that, man. And AEW says I'm too fat, and I want to say, look at your fucking dad. But to see him finally get that shot and make it, it gives hope for someone like me, because like it feels daunting and it feels like it's never going to happen. But man, I know how many times was he in that space for over 20 years, and now he's there in a big deal. So it's like he's got to keep plugging along.
Yeah. Hey, I think you and Excalibur would be a great team.
Oh yeah, man. Like I would, and I look at it too as like, my hope is that one of these big Jack Southern dudes goes there and then sings my praises, because I legitimately think that the act of either me with Neil or with Moonshine, or obviously the combination, I think that's a TV ready combination.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we've taken it to
Absolutely.
so many places now, and it's been successful in so many places, and it's gotten over. It's just, I think that's a money connection with the three of us. So whatever combination of that somebody wants, man, we're ready. We're ready to go.
Absolutely. I've always said that you and Moonshine together were magic, and I don't see why you weren't on TV yet. And you take Miracle Violence, you guys could just take over a show. So, as I've seen you do. But
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Oh no, I was gonna say we're gonna have to be wrapping up because
Yep.
my wife's got to go to bed soon, and I'm in the bedroom. She got
Sounds good.
I got the day off, but she got an early start.
I
But
think
I do want to ask one final question, or maybe it's a statement. But yeah, it is a statement, or maybe a question. Who's somebody you want to put over? Somebody,
Oh man,
just
God, there's so many. I mean, the two names that come to mind, as far one is like kind of the up and coming guy, is Anakin
Mhm.
Murphy. You know, I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of
Mhm.
enough people talk about him. Like, that's one of the
Yeah.
good dude, such a good kid, will do anything for you, and is, really loves it. Like, it just, he's a guy that I think could get overlooked because of his size, and I hope that he
Mhm.
doesn't, because he's he's one of the good ones in and out of the ring. And the other one, guy that I'm really trying to talk him into traveling and being a part of the group in CSW or 3XW, is a name that, if you're from Kansas City and you're listening, or even from St. Louis and you don't watch St. Louis Anarchy, or maybe you've just been exposed to him in the last year, but Casey Carrington,
Oh
he's one
yeah.
of my good friends. But I was a fan of him before I started wrestling. And he doesn't get put into the crop of guys like that came out of that era, like Dingo and
Mhm. Oh yeah.
those, and the Submission Squad and those kind of guys. But to me, he's just as talented. He's a unique style that, just there isn't anyone like him on the Anarchy card. And so, when he told me he was kind of chomping at the bit to get back, I mean, I jumped at getting him back into my
Oh,
group, because
definitely.
he's so good. And I think that's, if that name is foreign to you and you're watching or listening to this, then go type it in, or go to IWTV and search up PWCS and see some of the work we did with him there, because
Yeah.
and here on St. Louis Anarchy now, I mean, we're rolling hot, and he really is doing some of the best work of his career right now. And that's saying something, because I think he's done a lot of really good work.
He definitely is. And this guy, I take his word about any St. Louis wrestling. Klein said Carrington is an excellent character and can go in the ring. His return to Anarchy has been great, and it has. And I think people bring the potatoes to prove it.
Yeah, getting that over is silly.
If they didn't, if anyone didn't already know, I mean, it
Yeah,
was
my
just
buddy Dog
dog.
Twitter
Yep.
is always tagging him in pictures of potato. Oh, which Dog,
All
if
the
you're
time.
watching, fuck you. But yeah, okay. That I'm not familiar with KC.
Okay,
I don't
and
think
now
so.
you are.
And now I know he's a potato.
That's the potato guy, yeah.
The potato guy. But no, his work is good, and I've seen him in Anarchy, and I believe he wrestled the night that came out with Chase from the Hot Tag.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the tags and stuff he's been doing have been great. I want to start seeing him in some more one-on-ones, but he's been tagging with Moonshine, and they've got a really good connection. But yeah, I mean, if there's something, if I could implore people, if you got an IWTV account, go on there and check out the Last Man. I forget the name of the show, but the headlining match was the Last Man Standing match between he and his longtime tag team partner Stephen Kennedy, who's another guy that I look up to. And they were longtime tag partners. Nobody ever split them up and let them go at each other. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And it led
That's awesome.
to a really, really great Last Man Standing match between the two of them. And it's one of those ones where we did a video package before and stuff, so people would get the story and be able to hop right in. And so yeah, I think to check out one of his matches, check that out, and then tune into St. Louis Anarchy and watch what him and Neil and Moonshine are doing there. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Thank you. Anakin, Casey Harrington. Yeah. Or Casey
Carrington.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for being on, Greg. Like I said at the beginning, when we first started doing this, I wanted to have you on here because I've interviewed you on the hot tag before, 1.5 times. I told you this time my computer wouldn't run out of juice, and it didn't. So it's always a good thing. Our next show will be September 27th, 3 days before CSW, and we will be having on Davey Vega from St. Louis, another one of our favorites here.
Yeah.
So just wanted to thank you for coming on. Really appreciate that, guys. And everybody follow Heel Money Jovi on Twitter. That's the only thing I have, so that's the only thing I know you on.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
if you want to plug anything else,
it's everywhere,
you know?
man. Any socials, you can hit me at Heel Money Jovi. I've already hit the IWTV. If you watch PWCS, I get like a nickel for every time you click, so that'd be great. And then September 30th, like you said, CSW. We got a huge trios match. It's going to rock the house there. Then a couple weeks after that, October 14th, my man Derek Neal's defending against Manders, but even I am a man enough to know the star of the show that night is Gary J versus Masato Tanaka. So,
that's going to be a hell of an event.
So, okay, well, shout outs to Josh from I-70, Hunter, Klein, Murray. Murray's in here. You knew him as Lucha Chris. He popped in. Quiet Wyatt.
Got a bunch in here tonight.
Yeah. Thanks you guys for popping in. Greg, thanks for this. This is a lot of fun. This is really cool. We'll have to have you back, in the future. And for JG's Lounge, for Jim Bob's Grizzly Beard Care, for the smelling salts that he's doing now. I don't have the name on me, so but I'm not getting any money for it. So, but for all those people, we are Two Old Goats, and we're out. Thank you, guys. I think we're still fucking live. I don't know.
Yeah, we're still live. Yeah.
It was a great ending too, and now I gotta tell.
Hey, it really stuck the landing.
I know.
Unfortunate, really.
We're still going. I'm texting
Dynamite
right
dropping,
now.
Marty.
All right. Yeah, we're done. I should have texted him like a couple minutes ago, like, hey, maybe you should tune in for a minute. So yeah, we'll
all walk away.
I'll just get up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting chat bubbles because instead of ending the live, he's gonna text me. Okay, buddy.
What better way to go out the show,
Oh yeah, awkward and prolonged and weird and.
No, we should be good.
So, I already did the outro. He's fucking watching.
Do it again.
What the fuck? For JG, for Brian, for Greg, for me, for the Smelling Salts, for Jim Bob Grizzly's Beard Care, for Brafiki, for all the people that watched tonight. Thank you. Good night. What the fuck, dude? We're still live.
That's going to be the name of the episode. We're still live.
Texting me.
We're going forever.
We are. How embarrassing. Like Greg's going to want to come back now.
No shit.
You let me talk as long as I want. We'll be just fine.
Something about being done. I will hop on. I said 3 times, we're done. I have to text it. Done. And now I just texted it. Oh god, this is the biggest fucking clusterfuck train wreck.
Shh, we're still live.
We're done.
I've been watching. It was a hell of a show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're done 4 times. We're still live.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Jovi.
No problem, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Later, guys.
Later.